Farming in Northampton Township, Pennsylvania, had reached its peak in both production and as a way of life by the onset of World War II. Following the war, the demand for housing created a real estate value in the area that far exceeded the farm's agricultural use. Over the next 2 decades, the traditional small, family-owned farms of Northampton Township were slowly transformed into what is now the sprawling suburbs of Philadelphia. As we enter the 21st century, the once bucolic and beloved lifestyle of the small farm has almost disappeared completely from the area. But the memories of that lifestyle remain a cherished treasure to those who reside in Northampton Township. This film is culled from actual footage of Northampton Township farms taken in the period of 1940 to 1955. It's been combined with some archival material from other sources. Please enjoy this brief look back at a time gone by. Dairy farms once dominated Northampton Township as the #1 farm export product. Most of the local crops, in fact, were grown to feed the large herds of dairy cattle. An entire rail system was created in order to deliver fresh milk daily to processing plants closer to the cities. Though once the dominant export from the area, there are only 2 dairy farms remaining in the township today. Plow, break, till, cultivate, turn over, work, dig up, turn up, furrow, harrow. These various terms seem foreign to us today, but they were familiar phrases on the farm. They all refer to the time-honored tradition of getting soil prepared for planting, Whether by hand, horse, or mechanical tractor, each field had to have the soil turned over between crops in order to refresh the contents and loosen up the surface. One of the hallmarks of the Northampton farm was the planting of winter wheat, which would allow a field to remain productive in between the fall harvest and the spring planting. This crop helped prevent the erosion of bare soil during rainstorms and gave yet another crop to the farmer, which provided food for the livestock or could be plowed under in the spring to add nutrients to the soil. Horses remained a mainstay of the Northampton Township farm through the turn of the century. Only with the development of the more efficient and less expensive gas-powered tractor and truck during World War I did horses begin to be replaced in the area. The trusty and venerable horse team, however, could still be found locally performing numerous tasks on farms through the 1940s. Northampton Township boasts a native soil structure that is quite conducive to farming. Prehistoric deposits of clay and sand, complemented by centuries of compost from forests and fields, has resulted in a rich surface loam. As any farmer knows, however, continuous plantings on the same land will soon deplete the soil nutrients essential to agriculture. By the 20th century, fertilizer and lime were regularly added to the soil in conjunction with the yearly plowing and planting effort. This footage, taken recently at a historic demonstration farm, depicts the tedious methods of hand-cutting grain. This timeless task was essentially unchanged from the techniques used in biblical times. Hand reaping became a thing of the past in the 1840s when Cyrus McCormick invented his mechanical reaper. This miraculous machine, originally drawn by horses and later by mechanical tractors, was able to cut and reap the grain, leaving the stalks in rows for gathering. It established a revolutionary new farming process and played a big part in making America the breadbasket to the world. One of the essentials for keeping large herds of livestock on a farm was maintaining a plentiful supply of food for the animals. During the winter months, grazing land was not available. To remedy this, the Northampton farmers relied on silage. A technique developed by the Romans, silage allows green plant material such as corn stalks and alfalfa grass to be stored for long periods of time by piling it in a large container called a silo, where it would ferment just enough to remove the oxygen and thereby prevent it from spoiling. By the 1940s, most silos were tall concrete structures sitting next to the barn, which created the signature appearance of the Northampton Township farm. Numerous methods were devised to send the silage up to the top of these structures, where it would settle in layers. When needed, it would be taken from the bottom of the silo for feed. Molasses was often added to the silage mixture to assist the fermentation process and add nutrients to the animal's food. You'll often see scenes in this film depicting a giant paddle-like machine called a thresher. The term refers to the stripping of grain, such as wheat, from the stalk. The large rotating paddles that you see displayed push the stalks against a blade. The cut stalks then ride a conveyor belt into a chamber where another set of blades strips the grain kernels from that stalk. The empty stalks feed out into rows to get later baled into straw, while the grain is fed into large 2-bushel bags. As they were filled, these bags were tied off and stacked for pickup by trucks or trailers. These bags weighed about 60 pounds each. Northampton farmers clearly had no need for weight training at the local fitness club. Next to milk, the second largest farming export from Northampton Township was produce. Potatoes, beans, tomatoes, sweet corn, squash, and various fruits were some of the main export items. Some wheat and other grains were also exported, but the bulk of these, as well as the vast amounts of hay, remained in the area to feed the large dairy herds. Later developments in this process led to mechanical balers depicted here. These machines were big and fast and could be very dangerous if not treated with a healthy respect. The rapid advance of farming technology led to yet another machine that scooped up the bales so they could be more easily stacked on a truck bed. Farmers, though often proud of their heritage as individuals working the land on their own terms, soon discovered there were advantages in working together in certain areas. Finance and business dealings were two of the main topics to benefit from this group effort. The local farming community would often form an association called an exchange to facilitate the group activities. Purchasing of seed, fertilizer, and equipment, transporting and sale of crops, grain, and other products were some of the activities taken on by the Farmers' Exchange. The members would regularly gather for exchange picnics where they could interact with each other and the business community. As you can see, these picnics were invariably male-only affairs, marked by lots of fun and games, good food, and plenty of beer. These social gatherings were an important element of the farming lifestyle, where the exchange members could take some time to celebrate their hard work. They were also an opportunity to bond with each other, and to use a more modern term, network with other members of their community. Of course, the male-only aspect may have run into trouble if they had wanted to keep that policy in today's society. Meat and eggs were least in quantity of farming exports, although cattle, pigs, and chickens were often sold to local butcher shops, and eggs were regularly sold at local markets. Because the smaller size of the Northampton Township farm precluded assembling a large corral, a coop, or a pen, the export of these products was never really cost-effective. If a farm family had these types of animals on hand, they were kept mainly to sustain the family itself. The largest farm operation in Northampton Township was created when George and Stella Tyler bought up 18 smaller farms through the 1920s and 1930s. The resulting Neshaminy Farms Corporation was intended to rival similar mega farms sprouting up in neighboring states.
The Tyler's sprawling operation prospered for 30 years into the 1960s, where upon her husband George's passing, she bequeathed her entire estate for use for the Bucks County Community College and a large public use park.
Most of the scenes you have just viewed took place on land that is now the location of someone's home, or a school, or a shopping mall. When World War II ended in 1945, the returning servicemen and their new families created an unprecedented demand for housing across the nation. The small family farms of Northampton Township, already in decline as a profitable agricultural business, saw their value suddenly skyrocket as sites for residential communities. Throughout the 1950s and 60s, farm owners realized that supporting their family by farming the land was not nearly as economically sound as selling the farm to support their family. One after another, the family farms shown in this video became locations for the new American dream of raising your family in the suburbs. Holland Farms, Ginkgo Farms, Long Lane Farms, Windy Knoll Farms. Ironically, the new housing developments borrowed on the pastoral image of the very way of life they were replacing. As fields became foundations and barns gave way to bedrooms, the clanking and clatter of farm machinery has been replaced by the high-pitched whine of lawn mowers and leaf blowers. These photographs and the memories of those that lived it are all that remain of the farming lifestyle that was the mainstay of this area for 2 centuries. Let this video stand as a tribute to those sturdy and steady men, women, and children who lived that lifestyle and provide this brief look back at the Northampton Township family farm.